Hey everyone, in today's video I'll be going over a 300 Spartan themed build, and honestly I've been having a blast with this setup, running through the world of Elden Ring, taking down tough enemies, and even winning PvP fights against other players. I'm also going to throw in a little hint somewhere in the video on what the next build I'm working on is. Let me know in the comment section down below when you find it and what you think it's going to be about. Don't forget to subscribe for more weekly content. I also have a Discord set up for anyone looking for more people to play with. The link to that and other Elden Ring related videos will be in the description down below. Alright guys, let's get into the build, starting off with the weapons. In our main hand, we're going to have two weapons we can juggle around to change up our playstyles. The first one is the short spear. This is probably one of the first weapons that come to mind when you're thinking of a Spartan, having really good range with all of its attacks being different variations of a thrusting movement. You can use a different spear with better scaling, more damage, and range if you want to. I went with this one because it looked like the most normal looking spear in the game to really match the Spartan look. With the Ash of War, I'm using Spectral Lance, which makes you throw your spear at whoever you're locked onto. Honestly, this does decent damage and its only real use is in PvE. Don't get me wrong though, this is a blast chucking it at enemies and also staggering them as well. But when it comes to PvP, you'll definitely want a different Ash of War. Because we're going to be using Ashes of War quite a bit, I also have the Shard of Alexander's Talisman equipped. With this, it's going to increase all of our special attacks damage by a lot, so now they'll be much more punishing and helpful. The second weapon in our main hand is the Falchion. It's the closest looking weapon to the swords they used in the 300 movie. With it being a curved sword, it's a complete opposite to the spear, being a shorter weapon, having a faster attack speed, lots of sweeping attacks for good AoE cover, and hitting just a bit harder as well. With the Ash of War, it's the same thing as the spear. You can go with whatever you feel like works best for your playstyle because there isn't one that really stands out with this setup. We're also going to be using the heavy variation on both of these weapons because this is a strength focused build. In our offhand, we're using the ERDTREE Greatshield. This is the closest thing in the game to the huge round Spartan shield. It's also extremely useful as well. We can reflect magic attacks right back at the user, dealing some crazy damage. So this is really good against magic users in PvP fights, and a few occurrences in PvE fights. In addition, since it's a great shield, it's really good for blocking attacks. Because of that, I'm using the Great Shield Talisman. It just increases our guard boost, lowering the amount of stamina it costs to block attacks. So now we can take a few extra hits before we fully run out. There's a few different ways I like to play using the shield. Obviously the first one is sending magic attacks right back at people. It doesn't get more satisfying than that. The second way is counterattacking while I'm using the curved sword. To counterattack, it's really easy. You just press the heavy attack button right after you block a hit, doing a decently fast animation followed up with some nice damage. I mainly use this when people are doing a running attack, rolling attack, or using heavier weapons that take more time to recover from. A really good talisman I like to use with this is the curved sword. All it does is increase the damage of counterattacking, very straightforward. With the spear, you won't want to counterattack unless you're playing PvE. The animation on it is way too long to actually hit someone, but we have a way around this. When you hold the shield up to block an attack, you can thrust your spear forward at the same time. You do less damage, but it's basically a free trade. This is also a viable option in boss fights, just holding your shield up to block attacks while dealing damage. You basically become a tank for your team, eating damage and throwing some back at the same time. Another thing I like to use before boss fights or PvP fights is the spell Flame Grant Me Strength. The requirements are pretty low to use it and the damage buff you get is fully worth it. Something I recommend everyone to use with whatever build you're doing. This is all a lot of weight to be carrying around. 2 weapons, a heavy shield, and I haven't even gone into the armor yet. So something to help out with the weight is the Greatjar's Arsenal Talisman. It increases your max equip load by a ridiculous amount. Highly recommended for this setup and any other heavy builds. The way you'll want to use this setup in PvP fights is really simple. Start off with your sword and shield in hand and throw out all of your attacks, counterattacks, and Ash of War attacks. Then switch to your spear. The attack speed and range with it is so different compared to the sword, it'll really throw off your opponent, making it easier to poke at them and even roll catch them. There's just so many different moves you can do with both weapons, your opponent won't really know what to expect next. When it comes to PvE like boss fights, it's really easy as well. Use the spear with the shield to poke enemies down from a distance while staying safe and protected. Or you can switch to the sword, which is going to attack faster and do more damage. The risk to this is you'll have to get closer to your target and be a bit more at risk at taking damage. High risk versus high reward kind of situation. Now for a better look at the armor. The first piece is the Tree Sentinel helm, having a crest holder at the top of it going back and forth to really match the Spartan helmet. With the body armor, I'm using RADAHN'S armor that not only matches the look decently well, but also offering us some pretty good protection with this heavy piece. Going to the gloves, I'm using the Guardian bracers, which again helps out with the golden brass look that the Spartan's armor had. Nothing crazy special about this other than its looks. And lastly, we have RADAHN'S boots, being the exact same thing as the chest armor, matching the Spartan look, while offering us good protection at the same time. With the Flask of Wondrous Physic, there's nothing too special to it. I'm using the Strength Crystal Knot tier that's going to increase my strength by 10 levels for 3 minutes, so just increasing my damage. The other tier is more situational, that being the Holy Shrouding tier. It increases our holy damage by 20% for 3 minutes. The only holy damage we have though is the shield special attack, to make it more punishing against magic users. But if you'd rather use another tier, it won't affect this build a lot. Now I'll go over where you can find all of these items, and afterwards the stats required for this build to work. You can buy the short spear and the finger seal from the twin sisters that are located at the round table, so you can get these items pretty early in the game. To get the Ash of War for it, Spectral Lance, you'll want to reach the Church of the Cuckoo resting place. From here, you'll run outside into the courtyard until you reach the end of it. Then you should see a lit torch on the left side of the trail leading downwards to the scarab that drops it. For the Falchion sword, you'll want to reach the Mistwood Outskirts resting place. From here, you'll head towards the collapsed bridge where you'll have to farm the demi-humans underneath it in order for one of them to drop it. With the huge ERDTREE shield, you'll want to reach the Outer Wall Phantom Tree resting place. There'll be 2 tree sentinels on the other side of the big door that you'll have to kill to be rewarded the shield. The Strength Crystal Knot is located near the Stormhill Shack resting place. From here, you just head up the hill and you'll find it resting inside of a stone bowl. The Holy Shrouding cracked tier can be found near the Frenzied Flame Village Outskirts resting place. Wow, that was pretty long. You will have to kill the ERDTREE avatar boss in order for it to drop. If you want to get the spell Flame Grant Me Strength, you'll want to reach Fort Gale. The front gate will be closed, so you'll have to run around to the back of the castle to where you'll jump down and the spell can be found laying on a body for you to pick up. Now for the armor, if you want to get the Tree Sentinel helmet, you'll have to reach the Azuria Hero's Grave. Once inside, you'll have to go off course from the main path to finishing the dungeon, hitting a huge flaming pillar that'll break one of the carts that try to kill you, automatically placing it in your inventory after doing so. To get RADAHN'S chest and leg armor, you can buy it from the finger reader Enna that's located at the round table. But for her to sell it to you, you'll need to beat him first. You can find him at the Red Main Castle Plaza resting place. For the Guardian's bracers, you'll want to reach the Dragon Barrel Fork resting place. You'll have to farm these enemies that are along the side of this hill leading upwards for one of them to drop it. To get the Curved Sword Talisman, you'll want to reach the Stormvale Cliffside resting place. From here, you'll run into the castle, trying to avoid all the enemies, to where you'll find a door that leads to a dark room. There's also going to be a strong enemy in there that you'll want to take out first. Afterwards, the talisman will be found in a chest in the corner of the room. To get the Great Jar's Arsenal, you'll want to reach Deep Sofria's Well's resting place. You just push all the way through the canyon until you see a huge Colosseum structure. After reaching it, there will be a red summoning sign on the ground for invaders. After beating them, you'll talk to the Big Jar and he'll reward you with the talisman. For the Greatshield Talisman, you'll want to reach the ERDTREE Gazing Hill resting place. From here, you'll head down into the camp full of enemies. You can either clear them out or sneak around all of them. The talisman is going to be found inside one of the chests on the black carriage. Lastly, to get the Shard of Alexander, you'll need to finish the Iron Fist Alexander's quest line, which can be started by heading south of the War Master's shack, where you'll find him half buried. Now for the stats, you'll need a minimum of 30 strength, 13 dex, and 15 faith to use all of the weapons properly. Afterwards, I'd recommend putting more stats into strength to further increase your damage. That's everything for today's video. I'd like to give a big thanks to the members of my channel for supporting me on my videos and the future ones to come. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.